What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another G80 M3 video. We're going to be installing something new on the G80 M3. So if you guys didn't know, this is my 2023 British Racing Green individual G80 M3 X-Drive Comp. And for the last several months, I've had some suspension on here. I did a whole DIY install on how to install AST lowering springs. So I've had them on for a couple months, but honestly, since basically the first week, I've had nothing but problems with them. Lots of noise, lots of binding, and a lot of clunking noises. And so I actually have a new suspension setup, which I have right here in the box, that we will actually be putting on the car in today's video. Well, actually, I'm not going to be doing it. I'm actually going to be taking it to Enthusiast Auto Group because I don't want to screw around with the suspension any longer. I'm so tired of dealing with it. The ASTs, although it gives a really, really nice drop, the ride quality is decent. It's definitely stiffer than stock, but the amount of noise that I'm getting from it has just been completely insane and just not acceptable in my opinion. I spent this last several months basically emailing back and forth with AST Moton customer service, trying to figure out what the issues were. I had the suspension off. Most of the problem was on the driver's side. The passenger side does make some noise too, but the driver's side makes a ton of noise. And I had the suspension off probably 7 different times, taking things fully apart. Per AST's instructions, I bought new hardware to replace, things just to see if they were worn out. Basically wasted money and wasted a bunch of time trying to diagnose what the problem was. I even went above and beyond and purchased adjustable sway bar end links from SPL. And because a lot of people were saying, on forums and stuff that maybe it was the sway bar end links, so I bought adjustable sway bar end links from SPL. Put those on, same problem, the same amount of noise, if not slightly more, it seems like. And yeah, so I think I'm just so over the whole thing that I wanted to change the whole setup and do something that was a little bit better. It's been a really long time since I've actually had coilovers on any of my cars, but we're going to be doing coilovers on the G80. So with all of that being said, I reached out to my friends over at Keys Motorsports. So as you guys know, they have been a sponsor on the channel. So I wanted to reach out to Brian and see if he had any recommendations on, different suspension setups. And he actually turned me over to this new brand AGT, which is basically the AST Moton equivalent in Taiwan. But these are a really cool coilover set. They're not super expensive. Compared to other ones out there, KW, Öhlins, things like that. Those were all on my list. I've never experienced Öhlins. I've had KW height adjustable springs several times, always been happy with it, but wanted to try something else. And Brian really highly recommended the AGTs. So they're now selling this, and I am basically, I think, one of the first, if not the first person to be putting AGT coilovers on a G80 M3. So they actually have a couple of videos where they installed AGTs on several other cars, and G87 M2. They're doing it on, I think, Gary's 340. They're doing it on, they did it on a Mini Cooper S. So like lots of different cars that they have personally that they are running AGT coilovers on. So they gave me nothing but praises on the AGTs, and the amount of adjustability is really, really awesome. So I'm super excited to get this on. With that being said, when you do coilovers on the G80, you pretty much have to delete the EDC. I think there may be a few coilovers that will retain EDC, but I am going to lose that functionality for these particular ones, which is totally fine. I mean, I don't really care that much. And I think just with the amount of adjustability on the actual coilovers itself, if I wanted to stiffen things up for track day or whatever, or backroading, I can easily do so just with the turn of a couple dials. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this box up, show you the product, and kind of talk about some of the features. All right, so here are the AGT coilovers, compliments of Keys Motorsports. So huge shout out to them for sending this over to me and for vetting the product. I'm super excited to get these installed in the car. So again, I am not actually going to be physically doing the install. So again, I'm not actually going to be physically doing the install on today's video. I just really wanted to introduce you to the product, talk about it a little bit. I'm actually going to take it to Enthusiast Auto Group and have them do it, as well as an alignment. I'm just so over dealing with, the ASTs and taking the suspension and taking the wheels off and all this stuff. So I'm gonna let the pros do it this time, but I do wanna show you what we've got. And obviously at the end of the video, I will have kind of a update as a couple days go on after the install and give you guys an update on how I feel about them. All right, so here's what everything looks like out of the box. So we've got some AGT little stickers here, some little plates. We've got a warranty card, instruction guide. We've got the adjustable wrenches here. These are going to be the rear shocks and springs. There's the other spring in there, and these are the fronts. And so what makes these really unique compared to all of the other coilovers on the market, basically, these are basically going to be inverted coilovers. So most coilovers, when you are adjusting ride height, you rotate the collars, it compresses the spring, and that's how you would set your height. In this case, it's going to be a little bit different. We actually are going to preload the spring, tighten it down with the collars at a certain height, and then what we're going to do is you can actually spin this whole bottom collar up or down, depending on how low or how high you want the car to sit. So as you guys can see, if we thread it in, it's actually making this shorter. So that's kind of a unique design. When you're actually installing this, it does take a little bit longer time to figure out what that ride height is going to be, because you're going to have to spread your spindle and then rotate the bottom part of the collar in order to adjust the height. You can't just do it up here. Once you set your preload, you'll tighten it down here with the collars, and then you'll rotate the collar, or this part down here, in order to change the actual height. So it does take a little bit extra time in order to get that ride height exactly where you want it to be, but once it's set, it's good to go. Additionally, like I said, there are adjustments on here. So all of the shocks have these adjustment dials here on the bottom. You'll see hard and soft, and I believe there are 24 different settings here of where you can actually rotate, so you can hear little clicks. And so those clicks are actually either hardening or softening your suspension. And so that's kind of a nice feature, and you don't really have to, you can put the car up in the air without taking the actual wheels off, and you can actually just turn the dial on all four of these and adjust the stiffness. All right, so I guess we're gonna come back to you guys here in a couple days. I'm having Enthusiast Auto Group install these, do an alignment and all that stuff that I don't want to do. So I'll come back to you guys here in a little bit and let you guys know how they feel, and I'll show you guys what the car looks like. All right, guys, so fast forward here a couple days. The car was at Enthusiast Auto Group for maybe 3 or 4 days. We were having some other issues, not with the coilovers, but I'll explain that later in the video. But I just wanted to show you guys, this is what the new coilovers look like from AGT and Keys Motorsports. Again, these are inverted coilovers. They said the install was pretty straightforward. They just had to fine tune the heights and things like that. But they're all in there. Everything's really, really great so far, and I've been driving on it for a couple days here, but I wanted to pull the wheel off and actually show you guys what they look like installed. In addition, I wanted to change the stiffness settings. Right now it's set right in the middle, and so compared to the AST springs that I was used to, which was much harsher, this is a really soft setting right now, but I want it to be a little bit more direct and a little bit stiffer. So I'm actually going to be adjusting these right now, but wanted to show you guys what the fronts look like. I'm going to take the rear off here a little bit, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. And right under there, you'll see the dial, that little yellow dial. That's how we're going to adjust the stiffness settings. So, yep, looks good. Feels great so far. Just a shot of the rears here. So we've got our spring, and we've got our shock. Preload was all set and everything by the guys at EAG, so pretty nice looking. Everything's all nice and tidy in here. Good stuff. Alright guys, so I made my adjustments. Again, there are 24 levels of adjustment on these, both front and rear. And so they were set right in the middle, about 12. And in my opinion, they were a little bit too soft, just maybe because I'm used to the AST springs, which are a lot stiffer. So I went ahead and took all the wheels off, put my BBSs back on, and changed the stiffness settings. And now out of 24, we're on level 17 in terms of stiffness. So I've
only driven around a little bit after modifying that and putting the wheels back on. So I'm going to give it a couple days and come back to you guys and let you know what I feel about them and how it rides. But here's how it looks. So we dropped it, I think 6 millimeters more in the front and 2 millimeters more in the back from where we were with the ASTs. And obviously, with these wheels, I'm not running any spacers or anything. So the alignment that I had on, or that EAG do, was based on the stock wheels with spacers because it was slightly more aggressive. But there you go.
All right, guys, so I'm picking back up on this video. We're actually about almost 3 months after the initial install. So I just kind of wanted to give it some time with the car and, let the coilovers kind of break in a little bit and settle, things like that, and really kind of drive the car, on a daily basis, but also do some back roading and kind of get a better feel of how the AGT coilovers are from my perspective. So that's kind of why I decided to wait about 3 months. As you guys can see, I'm out here in the garage. You might be able to see the fog on my breath here. It's actually super cold. It's like 20 degrees outside. We're in middle of December now. And so, again, wanted to kind of wait about 3 months or so just to kind of give you my overall impressions of the car with the AGT coilovers. So as you guys can see, I'm back on stock wheels here with wheel spacers. The car has been absolutely phenomenal. I'm actually super impressed with these coilovers. And as I kind of mentioned, I think in the beginning of the video here, I've had a ton of different suspension setups over the years on a ton of different cars, ranging from, combination of different lowering springs from different companies, different manufacturers. I've done air suspension, I've done coilovers in the past, but it's been kind of a long time since I've done coilovers on any of my more recent cars. You'll know that like majority of my recent cars have all been lowering springs and or Bilstein struts, kind of a combination of things. But back on coilovers, and it's been phenomenal. I was, wondering if I was going to miss the EDC functionality, but since we have the coilovers on here, we had to delete those. And honestly, I don't really notice that, changing between different driving modes and stuff. Like before, it was noticeable. You could, feel the dampening change, but now that we've deleted it, I don't really miss it because these coilovers are incredibly soft for being a daily driven car. And that's what is so great about it is you can change that adjustability underneath every single corner and really dial it into your personal liking. So the way I already have it right now and have been driving on it for the last 3 months has been absolutely perfect to me. I suppose if I wanted a more track-oriented feel, I could stiffen it up, but because it is my daily driver and I do some spirited back road driving, but mostly it's highway, mostly it's, some back roads, just normal speeds, I still wanted it to be comfortable and, not feel harsh. And so these have actually, in their current setting, have actually been less harsh than the AST springs that I had. So I've been super happy with them. And again, I did some back roading and I will say they are super compliant. The car is super predictable in the corners. It handles super well. There's zero binding noises, zero issues. And I'm just really thoroughly impressed with the whole setup. And again, with these being coilovers, I don't really think you have to let them settle kind of like you do with springs. It's pretty much been the exact same height since after day one of install. And so, yeah, I mean, they've been super good. With the BBS wheel setup that I had on here with no spacers, I had a very tiny little bit of rubbing in the back on really hard dips. Front was absolutely perfect. But, when you lower a car, you kind of have to deal with rubbing every once in a while. That's kind of the offset of doing lowered suspension. But again, the rubbing was so minor that I wasn't going to raise it up. I would sacrifice a little bit of rubbing in order to get this perfect stance and fitment. And as you guys can see here, I think I mentioned this earlier in my video, I had the coilovers and everything aligned based on the setup that I have on currently, which is my winter wheel entire setup with spacers. And so I wanted to do that because I knew that that was, with the spacers, was going to be a little bit more aggressive setup than the BBS wheel setup. I actually was getting a little bit more rubbing than I would have liked, so I actually swapped
to slightly smaller spacers. So currently this actual setup right now is a 12.5 in front and a 13 in rear. And so these are not stock tires. They are actually Michelin Pilot Sport All Season 4s. And so I feel like they're a little bit more squared off than, you know, your typical Michelin PS4S. So I think that was also kind of a factor. Like, that's the thing about, you know, changing suspension setups and wheel and tire setups. So again, that's kind of what happens when you screw around with suspension and different wheel and tire setups. You have all these different variables that you have to consider in order to, you know, get that proper ride height that you're looking for, as well as, you know, not having any rubbing and proper fitment issues, and whether you want poke or whether you want something more sunken in, you know, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of variables to consider, but overall the car, you know, in its current state is phenomenal. I absolutely love the AGT coilovers. Super compliant, super predictable, you know, very, very daily drivable setup, and you know, super affordable compared to coilovers of other manufacturers. I can't really give you an opinion on how these compare to, you know, a KW V3 coilovers or Öhlins or something like that. Those are both more, I would say, track-oriented setups. But again, you know, this is a daily driven car. I didn't want to have to put, you know, a setup on here that I was going to hate. And for this being something that's driven on a regular basis, I wanted it to be comfortable. And I think I achieved that very, very well. All right, guys, so I'll have some clips here at the end of the video of what the car looks like rolling, at least on the BBS wheels. I know I didn't really talk about the BBSs, but you know, that was obviously a major change that really enhanced the car and the way it looks. So I'll have some rollers, kind of some video footage here at the end of the video to kind of show you what it all looks like in motion. But again, super happy, super pleased with the way this turned out. Huge shout out to AGT Coilovers for making a really awesome setup, and huge shout out to Keys Motorsports, as always, for being a great sponsor on the channel and helping provide those coilovers. And so there's been, you know, so many partners on this build. It's been such a fantastic experience so far, and can't say anything better about AGT and Keys Motorsports, obviously. So if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns about the AGT coilovers or anything with the G80 in general, please let me know in the comments below. Again, more videos to come. So yeah, stay tuned. Plenty more action coming for you guys. If you guys have any comments, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on the next video. Take care. Thanks for watching.